This is the top with a red dot, bottom blue dot, and turn the thing around, and when I turn the wheels on the sides of the air vents, these flaps rotate and open, and on their edge is a nice bit of foam. It's actually sandwiched between two plates and sticks out a little bit, and that's what seals, in inverted commas, against the frame. First thing I'm going to do is take a couple of stills photos. One of where the wire is taped, and one of how the end mechanism is set up. And this is just how this mechanism moves the flap. Whoops, there we go, like so. To remove this piece, just put it somewhere in the middle, and then grab it at this end, the boss end, and just give it a really firm pull, and that will come straight off. Note that this one has written on it, or sorry, embossed on it, MR, R being right, mechanism right, and this one has mechanism left, and there, as you view from the front of the grille. Pull that off. Now I'm just going to remove the wire. And this, I say, might not even be an item on your vents if you're doing this job, because they really didn't keep this temperature differentiator wheel for more than about a year to 18 months, and it was phased out basically as soon as they could. Now, in order to get at the back of our vents, really we want this part to come off, because the vents are back here and it's too fiddly to get in through this hole. Unfortunately, this piece, which is where I'm running the seam, is the back element. This piece is the front element. The back element is heat staked on along here and here, here quite obviously, and here. And heat staking is just basically they've remelted the plastic after assembly to make sure that these things never come adrift, don't twitch, don't creak, don't leak. So, you know, great for assembly, real problem for us for disassembly. So what we're going to have to do is run you could use a really sharp knife or a Dremel with a cutting blade. Other cutting tools are available along that seam, both sides, and then you should be able to disassemble it. Although these things are usually going to be pretty obvious, because if I'm honest, my cutting is not that accurate, so only one way will work. It's a good idea to just, when you're splitting things, put some markings on that mean you're definitely going to assemble the correct one, the right way up, etc, etc. Remember to put on some safety specs. As I say, I'm going to use a Dremel. You can use a sharp knife. You can obviously use a lot thinner cutting blades than these. This is a fibrous one, really tough. I'm using that because I've had plastic snag on me before now and it keeps shattering the blades. So although it'd be nice to put an incredibly thin cut in, I'm just going to be sensible. The reason for the 2 passes there is the heat from the cutting blade tends to remelt and heal these things over, so a couple of quick cuts rather than one long slow one is the way to go. I'm just cutting all the burring or flash off so we can see what we've got. It looks a lot worse than it really is, before probably going on doing a little bit more. There we go. Oops. Just going to see. I can hear creaking. I don't think I'm quite through yet, but we're not far off. So I'm just going to give it another little cut. So the clue is this. I'm leaving this flange on it and cutting just the other side of this flange. So a little bit where it's relinked there. But we're getting quite a lot of movement. So I think we're close to being disconnected. And you know you're on the right path and you're nearly there. Obviously I'll go do the opposite side before this will actually come apart, but I want to get it close. There we are. So there's the flange on this piece. That's flat. I've just basically cut that gap out, which is like a filler piece that's been inserted and melted in. And now I'm able to lift this edge. It won't come out because I've got to do this side exactly the same. So I'll just get on and do the other 3 elements. Okay, so for the magic of editing, I have now completed all 4 cuts. And it is worth taking your time on this and doing it carefully, because otherwise you're making another job for yourself in repairing the plastics. So, moment of truth. There's going to be a few little attachment points where I haven't quite loosened things off, I'm sure. But, oh, so let's loosen this bit off. Something up this side holding it. Let's see if I can peep inside and see it. And that's one off. Now my chalk mark has come off and it should be very obvious, but I'm just going to redo that. On this side I had 2. just so I know where things have come from. Okay, looking inside here for any little clues that are going to help me with the other one. And it looks like it's basically a plain flange. It should just pull off. So connection here seems to be this I'm still attached to. And there you go. Lovely. So for the moment, these are not too important to us. I'm going to put them to one side. These are the bits we're trying to fix, and I'm going to remove this thumb wheel because it's just slid in between those two vents. As you can see, 3 wires coming off the back of that. It's actually a rheostat with a couple of detent positions, but you may not have this device on your vehicle. If you're interested, it's an LMA 7698AA. Other than a little bit of plastic around the edges from that filler strip, but they've obviously added sacrificially to heat up and glue this thing together. The whole thing seems to have survived pretty much intact. So now what I'm wondering is, if I pop the inners out of these by using these little gouges here, it's going to give me a lot easier access to rebuild these things. There we go. We're just about out, boys and girls. And there's our vanes, the ones that go up and down. And before I get too excited, just going to pop them back in the little grooves. Make sure I understand it. You can see they sit in little grooves in this front piece, and right there on the inner edge there's a little lug, and those should be all connected together so that when one moves they all move, but that's the bit that's missing. Again, for no particular reason, I'm going to just mark these 1, 2, 3, 4, so that I know which order they're in, just in case there's a difference, but I don't think there is. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and they were mounted in these holes here. And I'm not going to disassemble this because that means I've got a little bit of a pattern for how things are supposed to work. You can see the mechanism for the left right, which is working just fine. Works like that, and that's operated by that. Okay, so here is the actual issue the money shot, as they would say. This item has a small clip here, and that small clip goes around this little boss. And when this is a lot closer to this, that bit goes in there, that bit goes in there, and a bit that's broken off the top here goes in there. So in order to repair this, we need something like this that is basically able to hold the bosses at an equal distance from each other. And we have this as a pattern. So first thing is I'm going to measure this and get the actual pitch correct. Okay, close. Now I'm going to look at the pitch. So if I go from the top edge of one to the top edge of another inside, that's 10.21. Let's go for the other one that's not damaged. 10.21. I wonder if that's an inch measurement. Let's just switch. 4/10 of an inch or 10 mil. I'm going to 10 mil pitch. We need to make something with 4 little boss holders at 10 mil gap, and the diameter of these little bosses is 2.1 millimeters, let's say. Okay, so what we know is we have 4 pins. These are the pegs or dowels on the ends of our vanes. Each one of these pins is 10 millimeters away from its neighbour. We know that the diameter of the pins is circa 2 millimeters. So how are we going to make our device to repair this? Good luck if you want to try and buy one new. It ain't going to happen. Secondhand, most of them are broken. So you're going to end up making something. A solution I've seen a lot of people use, and there's nothing wrong with it, it's a good solution, is you find yourself a scrap piece of plastic. I'd recommend using something like a body filler spreader, because they're decent quality plastic, a couple of mil thick, and also reasonably flexible. You don't want to use a brittle plastic, else you'll have the same problem again. Drill 4 holes at those spacings into that piece of plastic. Once you've drilled the holes, what you then need to do is cut a slot about 1 mil thick from the edge to your holes, like so. Then what you'll do is cut the whole thing down until you end up with something looking a little like that. And just for effect, if I colour in what you're going to be left with, you're going to be left with something that looks like that. So without that line there, you've got these little slots. Make sure that this slot is smaller than your dowel, and that hole is the same size or bigger than your dowel, so you've got to force them in and they don't drop back out. So that's one solution. I'm not going to use that because this sort of design is used for ease of assembly. It's not that robust, and if one of these does get detached, the others will force it off and it drops off. It's inside your unit, you've got to start again. And it can't really be refitted without going through everything I've just showed you. So that's fine. From new, ease of assembly, blah, 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 blah. 23 years on, I'm going to fix it more permanently, and I'm going to use the same technique I used to fix the vents on my VW-T4, and that is to wire loop them. And it's a lot easier than you'd imagine. All you got to do is make yourself a little jig to keep the vanes the right distance apart whilst you wire them, and then job done. They're never going to be detached again. So I'm going to get on and show you how to do that. What you need is a bit of wood. Nothing clever. It's going to be used once and thrown away. Then I'm going to draw a line on it. And this line is going to represent our first vane position. Then we're going to measure 10 mil, which is there. You should have 4 lines, and it should cover 30 mil. Next, what you're going to do is you're going to take, I know it's wood and I know I'm using a hacksaw, but I want a reasonably accurate line. I'm going to cut a slot on each of those lines. So literally obliterate those lines, and you're going to want to go down about 15 mil. Four. Now what I'm going to do is get a wood saw which is only important because it's got a wider cut, and it won't go anywhere other than where I've already cut. I'm just going to run this saw through it to widen the cut. And get my sharp knife, and I'm just running it along the opening to each of those to bevel the edge just a little bit. Okay, so we got our slots. I've basically just chamfered the entrances, evened up a little bit. They don't look very even on film, but the slots are equal gaps. What I'm going to do now is saw this little bit off and use it to make a little clamp. So now what we're going to do is take vane number 1, and we're just going to stick him with the little peg near the top, and we're going to bring that down and then position vane number 2, which is that one. So with those clamped in place, I'm taking some 0.5mm galvanized wire, sort of stuff you get from a garden centre. It's more than strong enough for the job. I'm taking about 150mm of it, straighten it out, and then we can start to weave it into position. Go out there and go all the way around. Through the other side. All the way around. Gonna get my little pliers in there now. There we go. And pull it up. So I'm now round the first one and through the second one. All I'm doing is straighten the wire out a little bit and make this loop nice and neat. Done. So now we're going to go all the way around in a nice open loop, through that one again and through the next one. And you see how it's working. Pull that up until it forms a really nice tight loop on that peg, and that should be reasonably straight. Now we're going to go all the way around, nice loop, through that again, straight through the next one, basically sewing. There we go. Pull that down. Until we get a nice loop. And then the last one. All the way through. And pull them up. And they are now done better than they ever were when new. I'd recommend getting your pliers in and just making sure the wire is nice and straight between the various elements. Just basically neaten things up. And then you have the option of going back the other way, but that's not for me. Now the ends, you want to turn them up so they're facing the the back of the vanes, so out of sight and slightly in, like that, and then snip them off nice and close. And the little peak that stands up, just continue to bend it over. There we are. That is a new permanent link joining those. When they're reinstalled, they'll pivot perfectly and it won't come back off. Nope. These notches here, 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 here are where the ends of our blades fit in. Here's our set of blades, and there's the looped connections. So they're not coming off. That will last the life of the car. And all we have to do now is drop those in, oops, wrong way around, to the notches. And obviously, because these are nicely spaced on this end, we're going this end first. Drop them into position over there. And they drop perfectly, which is a good sign. There we go. So that's kind of mission accomplished. All I'm doing now is put it back together, but I will show you. So we've got our blades in. First thing to note is there's 4 blades. The control, the knob, the slider is closer to the bottom than it is to the top, so it just gives the orientation. This frame is just going to sit in there now on top and stop these jumping out of their notches. But what I do have to make sure is the middle groove here in this adjuster catches that little rod on that side of this piece. So put your adjuster into the middle, straighten your little blade thing up, and as you're dropping it in, just make sure you don't miss that knob, because otherwise you've got to pull the thing back out. Right, once that's clicked down, turn it the right way up. Perfect. Synchronized vent movements. Something I've never had on this car. So that goes there, and that one is going to go there. And also we've got the switch to put back, and I put this little T-shaped marking on it to line up with these T-shaped markings to remind me which way round it goes, and it literally just slides between the 2 vents. There you go. That's nice. And the rest of this is going to hold it in place. These 2 have like a jigsaw puzzle shape between them, so they're going to interlock. Okay, so my reassembly technique is going to be in 3 stages. Tiny dab of super glue of your choice. That's just to keep everything steady. Heat staking it back together, or plastic welding, whichever you prefer. And then a little bit of high quality tape just to seal it off in the large areas. This was never a perfect seal in the first place, and it was only joined here and here. These 2 pieces just touched. So you're not interested in airtight to match how it was originally. All you're interested in is doesn't fall apart, doesn't creak. So first step, teeny tiny amount of super glue. This is Gorilla super glue, but I'm not saying it's the better, it's just what I have. And I'm also using the gel version, just because some super glues are so thin that unless you've got perfect mating surfaces, they won't touch and get a good join. So I've just got basically 4 little spots on either end. All I'm going to do now is drop this back into position go. And give it a little squeeze. There's an arrow on the side here that lines up with a mark, and there's also the chalk marks that I made just as a bonus feature to help. And now I've got my soldering iron warming up. Just going to start manipulating the plastic. Hopefully you can see some of this. I'm just melting a little bit on one side and pulling it towards me. I'm going to do the same on this side. Just start bringing it across, pushing it away from me. The two will meet. And what you've got is a plastic weld. Don't move it until it's cooled down. I've got a video on plastic welding elsewhere on the site. You can check it out if you want, some of the techniques you can use. It's very easy. It's more of a knack than a skill. You know, you try it out, you find your own way, and all of a sudden there's loads of things you can fix. But just check that they are thermoplastics that you're working with, and they're both similar. By thermoplastic means that you can remelt it and it resets, rather than you melt it and it catches fire or goes rock hard and brittle. So one good join there. I'm just going to do the same in this area. Again, just pulling some of the plastic towards me on one side, pushing the plastic away on the other side, letting them meet, and just tapping them down. Do this in a well ventilated area. Don't do it for long. Wear a mask because the fumes aren't great, but a little bit of work like this makes a really good job. And then put this quality tape along the seam. Okay, we're nearly there. So now we're just going to put the little arms back on. This is the top of the vent, red. This is the right hand side, therefore. And on the moulding it does have MR for M. Don't know what M is. And right. I'm going to give a mechanism right. And on the little arm it says MR because it's the right hand one. And the way they're designed, they'll only go onto the little stud one way. So this is on the shut position, down, with the arm at the top. This is shut, so that's good. And what you need to do, just position it on there. Wriggle the end of the arm underneath there and just push it home. and do the same on the other side. Okay, so first mission is just reconnect my center switch, and we discussed it in part 1. You may not have this wire or indeed the switch. If so, don't panic, it is normal. Mine's the odd one out. Pop that back into the gap on the right hand side. Try and hook it in from the bottom first. It can move left and right, but there's some little dowels at the top that go in these holes. So line them up by eye. Then push the bottom fully home before you just roll the top into position, and it's job done. So I'm just going to give these dials a wipe over before I reinstall the wood. And then we take our wood trim, and we've reinstalled the 2 clips down here. Push the top back into place first, and then pushing here and here, push that back, and job complete. And there we go. For the first time in my ownership of Purdy, we have synchronized vents that work properly, left and right, up and down, and what's more, they're better than they were when they were new. I'm going to stay that way for quite some time, I hope. So if you want to do that job, nice easy one. A little bit of time involved, a little bit of care involved, but nothing technically difficult about it whatsoever. And parts price is some galvanized wire. Well, if you've enjoyed this video, then please subscribe, please share, please tell your friends all about the channel, get involved with the comments, and we'll see you again really, really soon on To The Garage. Bye!